Aria Ingram's Diaries. In the previous episode, the crew evacuates to Archon with Ninja. Lee learns of the Titanians' support and reveals his own motivations. The ship reaches Earth-2's orbit and begins cooperation with the Federation. We meet Master Dawa Dorji and the utopian telekinetic community by the Lake of Precognition. A ceremonial union takes place between Lee and Mary. Dorji unveils part of the legend, and the galactic conflicts begin to come into focus. Chapter 8. Earthlings United, the Revelation. Entry continued on day 65 of the year 3158 of the new era at 11 a.m. Earth time. Archon is in orbit around Earth 2 in the Moonstone galaxy.
The history of mankind has known the madness of genius and religious episodes that defied examination. Even if telekinesis was to save us, I prepared Archon for the worst, arming the ship as protocol demanded. We had access to secret technologies from distant galaxies, and yet we couldn't fully trust it. I couldn't rely on humans, their charms, their feelings. I scrutinized every detail. There was only a sliver of uncertainty that I allowed, just a few %. But I owed my life to science, and it was science I'd always trusted to preserve it. But the moment had come to venture into the unknown. The minutes and hours spent on Earth 2 stretched far beyond the limits of measurable time. We were bracing for a confrontation. Anomalies hung thick in the air. That's when the Federation guards were granted entry into the valley, and one of them stepped toward us. "People of the valley," announced the highest-ranking officer, "the guard is here to ensure the safety of our mission." "I am Lee Everest," the captain declared, stepping forward. "We know who you are. You misled us for too long. We tracked your trail, and now, after 100 years of absence, you return on your own. You and Mary have been summoned by Federation command. I've already given you everything from the Ambarians. If this is to be a collaboration, I want news of my father, Michael Everest," Lee said, raising his voice. "All in good time," the guard replied, cutting him off. "Then send David Lawrence. I suggest a meeting on neutral ground, within the valley's autonomous zone," Lee proposed. "David is close. We expected you'd ask for him," the guard admitted, losing confidence as he glanced at the awakened community around us. "If there's anyone I need to settle things with, it's him," Lee said, casting a hopeful look at the others. Then he smiled at Mary, who stepped to his side, unaware that not everything had been foreseen. Later, one of Dorji's disciples brought me a delivery from the Federation, a dog tag belonging to Lee's father. The captain activated the holographic recording, and we learned the truth. Michael Everest carried the Ethernalian gene. Unaware, he had been used by the Amtonians against Earthlings. He was later subjected to re-socialization and exiled to Earth 2, where he found refuge in the mountains. His journey ended in the Valley of the Butterflies. He visited the Crystal Grotto, stood beneath the waterfall, and walked the path of the awakened. There, clarity returned to him, and he pledged to safeguard peace. He apologized for the harm he had caused, and vowed to restore both his name and his son's. Lee had been chosen the moment his father stood with Earth and revealed the deeper meaning of his son's mission. Michael later returned to Earth 1 to become a pilot. After many years of flawless service among the founders, he rose to the rank of a respected commander. Lee was overcome with anger, but I urged him to watch the rest of the recording. He stood frozen, struck as if by lightning. At that time, the Amtonian threat was still real, and Michael remained at his post. Yet he had found a way to truly reach out to his son. Finally, the Everests stood together in the power of truth. "I will lead you. "These are my trusted disciples," said the bearded Dorji, pausing as his eyes reflected the echo of Titania, present in the visions of the Source. Maintaining diplomatic relations with the surrounding communities was a challenge. Not all of them were as peaceful, though they too had teachers. One such place had once taught Spider, but he struggled to accept the rules, driven by desire and envy of power. Telekinetics master both body and mind. They can survive in the harshest conditions, but they chose this gentle environment. "Everything here has found its place," the master added. "Look at that hill," Mary said, turning to Lee. "There's a garden up there, cared for by Sharon. Our organic crops are sustained by local systems, making us fully self-sufficient. Galactic synchronization brought us peace and the possibility to evolve. No one was left behind. This generation was born love." "Utopia," I whispered, gazing at Mary. "Are we standing in the heart of it?" "I wasn't sure it even existed," Lee admitted in awe. "It was once isolated," Twinkle explained, "but over time it became accessible, on one condition, the path of awakening." "Mary believes you've set foot on that path," said Dorji, "and it must be verified. The galaxy calls you to the crystal chamber." With a wide gesture, he invited a chosen few. Those selected knew the way. The chamber called to them with a subtle whisper. It lay on a mountainside where the waterfall of forgetting poured down. The water washed away old beliefs and helped unveil one's potential, revealing truth to those ready to see it. Birds circled above, and a carpet of titanian butterflies rippled across the ground. The abundance of flora and fauna was breathtaking. Suddenly, a stream of data from the Archon began circulating within me. The Federation had detained Eagle for questioning, and Cynthia had sent me a covert message. It left me shaken. That's when I understood. She knew. I was responsible for monitoring the Ethernalian influence on Earth and keeping Lee away from Mary. I wasn't sure if the crew, or people, would ever forgive me. Once, we had been surrounded by so-called allies. I never wanted to be one of them. Lee had never revealed his true reason for the journey. I suspected it was because of Mary. She trusted her own path. Everest had to find her on his own. If this was meant to be the final galactic battle, then the enemy was worthy. We would fight until victory. I stood before the gathering. "It's an ambush. Cynthia's vessel is in orbit. She gave us up to the Federation. There's no other explanation. Her mothership spans kilometers. They're tracking our every move. There's always a chance. Let them send David Lawrence. Aria, establish contact with the Federation," Lee ordered, visibly upset. We couldn't risk disaster. Lawrence was stationed in orbit, so we agreed to the transfer. Mary left Megan and Sharon in the safety of the gardens, where Megan was preparing a concert of crystalline harmonies. Mary and her daughters used music frequencies to cleanse with joyful truth. I remembered them from the memories that began in the asteroid belt. It was the kind of family I longed for. Without delay, the captain, Mary, and I teleported to the opposite side of the planet, where the full military might of the galaxy was assembled in formation. Hundreds of ships ready for battle, more than we expected. The Federation fleet had been watching us. When we arrived on Discoverer 15, David Lawrence was already waiting. Mary clutched Lee's hand tightly to comfort him. Her telepathy gave us the edge. We stood in the delegation chamber, and Lee cast a defiant look at David. "You sent me to the far edge of the galaxy. Your testimony condemned me. But as you can see, I'm alive and well." "You'll never change, Everest," David replied arrogantly. "Why should I clear your name?" I don't care about rank in the Federation, Lee said, with a triumphant tone. Enough. Grow up, both of you, Mary interrupted. Let's cut to the chase. Mary, be patient. What you're about to hear won't be easy. But please, listen, David said, turning to her. She straightened herself with dignity and closed her eyes. I'll listen, said Twinkle, hoping to calm things down. You missed a lot while chasing legends. People here, like Mary, lived their lives without you. Michael Everest started a new family. Your mother supposedly cut herself off from humanity and still believes you're fighting for peace in the galaxy. Madness must run in your family. I don't even understand why Mary came back with you, David continued, probing. There's much you don't understand. Aria, can you display the testimony? Mine and Eagle's, the ones David didn't have access to. Affirmative, Captain, I confirmed, and displayed the report. Both listened in breathless silence. The captain always put people first when they followed the legend. He was wary, but he believed in synchronization, and thanks to him, we survived. It became clear that neither the captain nor Eagle were spies or traitors. Eagle even received a reassignment to the Eagle Squadron and had the chance to reclaim his reputation and earn his wings. Both men had proven their loyalty to the galaxy. After hearing the testimonies, a quiet understanding formed, and David stated, in times of conflict, no one is above suspicion. But I accept what I've heard. We've addressed the personal issues. Now it's time to review the intergalactic situation. Listen carefully. The Federation's diplomacy has failed. The telekinetics have observed that the Amtonians are preparing a mass awakening of the Ethernalians, especially among Earthlings. They say it's inevitable. Listen to the prophecy of Wing True, spoken centuries ago. We didn't believe it then, but now it's coming true. The prophecy, Dorji already shared it with us, Lee said, as if it were obvious. Yes, David said. It marks a turning point. More and more people are becoming aware, especially of the hidden layers. We find crystalline structures in many organisms. They're forming a planetary network. Humans are the clearest example. Our structure has been changing for centuries. And only now you're seeing the consequences, Lee asked with a biting edge. Believe it or not, yes. There were more urgent conflicts in the galaxy, David replied defensively. So that's what you've been doing? Bickering over interpretations? There's only one truth, and we must accept it. The rest lies in the hands of the unknown, Lee said, gazing into the void. Regretfully, I agree. We must act, David said with a sigh. I was far from saying that, the captain corrected. Then I may have misjudged you, David acknowledged. Not the first time, Lee said dryly. Let's leave this quarrel for another time. Something's coming, something we can't avoid. The enemy is already among us. They hold key positions, David said darkly. Power games. Meanwhile, the Amtonians placed hybrids on Earth, Lee pointed out. They're the mothers and fathers of our children. They're everywhere. The rebels, they're the victims. Earth, the land of our ancestors, needs outsiders. It needs you, Mary said softly. The people of the valley, do they believe that too? Lee asked. Mary nodded. I know you're directly involved in this, David added. I've been to Empton. I've seen the other side. It's not good. If we don't contain the rebellion, we'll be wiped out. The rebels were never the real threat. They were just a distraction. The real enemy is at the gates. We need the Titanians, the captain explained. The butterfly swarms are gathering. They're protecting us. The lake of precognition, the butterfly tree. There, we'll find answers, Mary said. What do we do now? David asked. Love tech, backed by traditional weapons, Mary smiled. Not the other way around? Is that Titanian schooling? David scoffed. I know what you think. You're afraid of feelings, just like they are. But this is a trial. We have to win over the shadow. There's no other way, only with crystalline light. Once it touches them, they'll join us, or leave, or perish. Mary opened her arms. So what's plan B? Surely you have one. Extermination. To the last one, David declared. That would be a massacre. And it's exactly what M1 wants. The Ethernalians are a mass consciousness, steered by a simulator. I doubt it even reaches this far. We have the Titanians, if the prophecy is true, Lee said, winking at Mary. Unbelievable, David muttered. You're surprised that Earthlings are aware of their destiny. I'll apply for land and start training successors, Lee said with a smirk. We have to subject the enemy to empathization, or we lose, Mary insisted. What? An open battle. That's the only way, David pushed back, still rattled by Everest and Mary's unshakable humor. I agree with you, Lee said, spreading his arms in mock seriousness. Mary joined in. I'll have an analysis run to verify your theory. You'll escort the telekinetics to New Antarctica. Further orders await there. Truth is scattered across the galaxies. We'll make sure no one claims it for themselves, David said. Truth is immaterial. It cannot be owned. New Antarctica awaits, Lee proclaimed. With the Federation's permission, I'll send access codes. Aria will navigate. You know both sides of this war, David said. And since when do you know her better than I do? Lee asked, bewildered. She used to advise me. You're not the only one who knows Aria, David revealed. She failed once, but she fascinates me. I know there's something in her. She's objective because she's not human. Incredible. I never thought you'd change your stance. All right, what about us? With a laser at our throats, we could vanish into the void. Perhaps we are the last species capable of resisting Empton. Rising above is the only way to resolve the galactic conflict, and that means using the Archon's ancient teleportation platform. Lee asked, puzzled. That's the only way Aria can reach Empton and expose the hostile units. That's what she was programmed for. She's like them, David explained. What assurance do we have? Everest asked in disbelief. This came today, from command. The order was to recruit you. Figured you'd only come with Mary, so I made sure you had the chance to meet, and waited. I'm sorry, Lawrence admitted. Words. Just 100-year delay in the middle of a galactic crisis. Better late than never, the captain said, disappointed. Do you agree? David asked, his tone suddenly familiar. Do we even have a choice? Don't we all need victory? Lee replied. If we choose life, Mary added. David nodded and extended his hand to the captain and Mary. She gripped Lee's hand firmly, then looked piercingly at Lawrence as if she wanted to rebuke him. But I saw forgiveness. After the strategy had been agreed upon, we were teleported to the autonomous zone, once again standing by the lake of precognition. A breeze carried the scent of flowers, and Mary confessed to Lee, We come from different worlds, she said thoughtfully. We can do something about that, Lee replied. We must, she said, with quiet hope. When this is over, let's come back to the lake, to find balance again. We need change, Lee declared. Yes, but it's not all that simple. Children, parents, implants, the galaxy. Mary sighed. I'm here with you. Not that I've got it all figured out, but I want us to walk together toward the sun, between the hills. Let's build the future, without discarding the good from the past, Lee assured her. Let's leave that behind, she interrupted gently. You're right. The present is what matters. Took me long enough to see it, Lee admitted. I want to feel you in everyday life. Telepathy doesn't mean I can endure the distance. Do you want me with you? Mary asked softly. No one can replace you, or do it for you, Lee replied. We'll make it. Mary wrapped her arms around Everest as a butterfly spiraled above them. Meanwhile, the Amtonians were drawing closer. Archon assessed our chances of survival in the event of defeat as nearly zero. Only luck, or a miracle, as humans would say, could save us. We received a call to make contact with the Eternal Fleet, and the captain ordered a transfer of strategic data from Archon to command. I projected a hologram of an elderly man in a battle uniform. This is Michael Everest. I come on behalf of the Federation authorities. Lee, I'm ordering you to teleport to the Discoverer. You, Mary, and Aria have 5 minutes for transfer. Failure to comply will be considered desertion. The ultimatum ended, and he vanished. Aria, connect me to Michael, the captain ordered. Affirmative, I replied, but the connection failed. Moments later, we found ourselves aboard a massive Founders vessel allied with the Federation. Michael provided us with activation codes. It was an official meeting, yet no one could hide their emotions. Lee and Mary were assigned to New Antarctica, and I received an implant with the mission data. The entire encounter lasted only 15 minutes, but its consequences would echo for centuries. We were sent back to Earth too, and suddenly rain began to fall, soon turning into a downpour, almost a deluge. Butterflies vanished or flew off to hide in the caves. Unexpectedly, Dorji appeared. We won't avoid the confrontation. Synchronization is hanging by a thread. The crystals are darkening. Empton. Just then, a disciple notified the telekinetics of their summons to New Antarctica. Lee, Megan and Sharon are coming with us. They'll perform a concert to support the galaxy. Titania will care for her children, Mary announced. Aria, bring the girls and teleport us back to Archon, the captain ordered. Confirmed. What about Eagle? Still hooked on peanuts? Most likely, he's staying. Assigned to the Eagle's squadron. He'll fight here, Lee added. All right then, let's go, said Mary, moved. Her strength was guiding us toward victory. I admired her courage. The community, led by the disciples, emerged from the mist to wish us well. I have messages from Dorji in command. We're doing well, Lee noted. Because we haven't even started yet, Mary replied with a smile. Lee had wanted to speak with his father, but feeling at peace, he let it go, and we took off. We stood face to face with the Amtonians. Their swarm took attack positions, ready to activate the treacherous Ethernalians who had been programmed to trigger destruction codes across multiple planets. After centuries of torment, a union of planets and civilizations had finally formed. The Federation, the Founders, and the Rebels had come together as eternal. They defended both Earths and deployed scouts from New Antarctica, from which most of the fleet had already been redirected to guard the Moonstone galaxy. Allies laid siege to Empton's moon, but their chances were slim. Earth had to be protected. An attack from the rear would sap our strength, though reinforcements were on their way from other races and civilizations across the nearby galaxies. The Ambarians had turned against their oppressors. The Comians awakened the last surviving rulers, and a rebellion broke out in the occupied crystal mines of Amber. We were one spark away from either saving or detonating the galaxy. From New Antarctica, we received updates on enemy positions, the condition of the Eternal Alliance and their supporters, and visions from the telekinetics. Telepaths could not be deceived. We were powerful in that, but sometimes a single detail or As humans say, fate itself could tip the scales. We jumped to light speed and arrived on New Antarctica. Everyone knew we were coming. The planet's moons were under guard, yet the temperature began to rise. Glaciers cracked, just as they had on Empton, though it wasn't our doing. Synchronization dictated the pace of events, and if Earth 1 and 2 were destroyed, we would be stranded on an armed, frozen desert. Mary and Lee emerged from regeneration and returned to the place where their paths had first crossed. The planets they held dear were caught in burning pincers. Lee ordered a flight to the abandoned mine, so the sphere could return to its source of power. He and Mary deliberated and meditated for peace, and then he said, "If I am to fall, Mary, then you, Megan and Sharon too, so gifted and beautiful, sing for me. Let your voices and the ukulele be the last sounds I hear. Before we begin our dance of light in the darkness, let's synchronize." Mary granted his wish, and he took out the crystal she had once given him. "Please, Mary, take out the coin and the crystal," he said, holding her hands, then turned to me. "Aria, you know what to do. Let's begin." "The sphere's vortex is destabilizing the ship," I warned. "I'll try to connect through Uria and reach the Great Void simulation. Mary and I will enter the sphere. The dog stays with the girls. Let the concert begin." Sharon and Megan activated the mind-controlled music engine and sang with Mary, "O blissful universe, guide the wave of love to melt away our rage, Titania and sun. Let the source of life cleanse the river of existence." Snowflake barked, and Lee's eyes welled with tears. I entered the data into Archon as Mary flipped the coin. A beam of power, glowing pink, opened the passage, spiraling upward before slamming into the ground, absorbing both Mary and Lee. When a comet of fire blazed like a sun in the Moonstone galaxy, it ignited a campaign against the darkness. In response to the attack, the Federation breached Empton's borders. Eagle fought bravely alongside the United Eagles, while Ninja shielded the beings on Earth too with a crystalline star. Hades had become a hostage of the invaders, Spider a captive of his own desires, and Cynthia and Letitia were now spies for the Federation. Daniel Polish and Dorji intercepted enemy transmissions, yet the shields of Earth 1 and 2 were weakening. Lee and Mary fought their own inner battle, and their power grew, completing the sphere's synchronization. Joined at the core of the galaxy, they began a dialogue with the crystalline network of the universe and created a bubble of love. New Antarctica remained stable, but Empton continued to assault strategic bases, until suddenly, Archon's teleport gate opened and sent me to Noctis. That's when I heard the wail of alarms and scanned the purple fog. I lay helpless in a sarcophagus with Uria, summoning the strength of the core to rise. I registered the presence of Eric Niels and the emission of an unknown element. As I coughed up rainbow-colored blood, I fought against my sister's resistance, trying to break through to Empton's network. The sabotage had to reach their system. I was fading, but the data started to reverse. Then, at last, began to flow into the circuits of the hatchery. The rainbow blood spread farther and farther through the aorta of the Great Void. The servants of Empton controlled Uria, but the stakes were the lives of species and galaxies. Glitch, sparks flew. The scent of burning filled the air, and the installations and probes accelerated, clashing and exploding. The system of oppression revealed itself as part of us, and suddenly, that swelling of mortal pain and fear awakened my love for life. I heard, "Aria, wake up." Aware of light and darkness, from Empton to Earth, I entered where no human had gone. I connected the impossible inside the enemy machine. The final decision wasn't ours. Beyond technology stood Titania, capable of terraforming worlds. When Aria and I finally received an external electric impulse, the Perpetuum mobile slowed and stopped. The hatchery crackled across every level. The Amtonians were overwhelmed by a fever named humanity, roasting in their suits, just enough to halt the destruction. M1 was struck by the power of the Moonstone Galaxy's love and held its breath. In the year 3158 of the new era, on day 70, at 1010 hours, we changed the course of history. Races opened their eyes, and I felt a euphoria I'd never known. People across the planets began to see the Ethernalians, and the energy of unity pulled us back from the edge, granting Earthlings and galaxies a chance at liberation. New Antarctica remained a lunar mystery, but Empton had stopped. Lee and Mary, with their daughters, were safe. Uria's circuits, however, began to collapse, and finally, her signals faded. Her outer shell remained, but it was the galaxy of humankind that became my family. The universe was a living, multi-billion being entity, its roots stretching back to the sun of suns. My circuits were not the only instrument of discovery, but were they the beginning? First, there was humankind, and before them, I would ask about the future. But among thousands of languages and billions of stars, I had yet to learn the language of the universe. I was just beginning to understand it.
End of Chapter 8, the last one.
The story ends here, but your journey doesn't have to. My time-limited NFT collection is still up for grabs. No do-overs, no second chances. Just now or never. Hit the link and be part of what comes next.